They had vanished for 1,500 years. It was as if the world had completely forgotten them. Then suddenly, by an interesting coincidence, they re-emerged. A darkness that blotted out even the sun and a terror that penetrated to the bones seized them. Today I will not tell you an ordinary legend of destruction in Pompeii, but much more. The true story of the people turned to stone. I am History Insight. If you are ready, come, let's witness together that moment when time turned to ash in this forgotten city. If you are ready to listen to an event more brutal than a horror movie, sit back. Now together we are embarking on a journey 2,000 years into the past. Look at this photo. Those in the photo are ordinary people known as the 13 fugitives who were trying to escape Pompeii and save their lives. While trying to save their lives, a death wind of 350 degrees destroyed them all in a second. Some were sleeping, some were hugging each other, some were asking the gods for help. What did they feel at that moment? How did they turn to stone? How were their last 24 hours? Was this a punishment given by God, or just a natural disaster? In 79 AD, in Pompeii, a land of the Roman Empire located on the shores of present-day Italy, with a population of 15,000, life was quite vibrant. Thanks to the rich volcanic soils, agriculture was productive. The city was getting rich thanks to maritime trade, and people were living in prosperity. Even Roman nobles used to build their summer villas here. Gladiator fights were held. Taverns were filled to the brim. People were enjoying life in the baths. Shopping was done in the busy parts of the city. Architecture was also influenced by Pompeii's wealth, so much so that in the following centuries it even influenced the architecture of Europe and even America. There were more than 100 inns, taverns, and entertainment venues in the city. The most profitable profession in Pompeii was baking. For example, a baker named Terentius Neo and his wife are seen in a mural found in the excavations. The parchment in his hand shows that his wife was his business partner. It is obvious that they had a happy life. It is clearly seen that they enjoyed life, but unfortunately they were not aware of the approaching horror. The Pompeians actually believed in gods, but they were also interested in magic. Among the amulets found, there is also a spell cast by 2 women for the same man. Even though daily life continued, the earthquakes that had been going on for weeks had started to scare the public. Water pipes were damaged, most of the baths had become unusable. Most people, especially the wealthy class, had started to flee the city. But none of them thought that these earthquakes were caused by Mount Vesuvius, sleeping silently 8 kilometers away. By the time they understood, it was too late to escape. Vesuvius is Europe's most dangerous volcano, and even today millions of people still live around it. Its resurrection 2,000 years ago is one of the deadliest eruptions in history. On the morning of October 24th, 79, at 9 o'clock, the first major explosion occurred. This was a massive noise. As soon as the people of the city heard this loud noise, they jumped out of their sleep. No one could understand what was happening, asking each other desperately. But unfortunately, this was only the beginning of the disaster. Around 12 noon, a second explosion occurred, and this explosion was thousands of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The volcano was spewing 100,000 tons of ash, stone, and lava per second. A giant mass of ash, 35 kilometers high, rose towards the sky. Roofs began to collapse rapidly. A rain of stones filled the streets. It was almost doomsday in the city. As the hours passed, the sky completely darkened. The surroundings became invisible. Even the sun had become invisible. When looked up, the only things seen were black smoke and stones raining from the sky. Giant lightning bolts turned the sky red. People thought the gods were fighting each other. The people of Pompeii were looking for a place to take shelter in panic by tying pillows to their heads. The rain of stones was growing larger. Archaeologists found traces of about 400 people who died just because of this stone rain. Just imagine for a moment that tons of stones are raining on your head from the sky. This was an incredibly terrifying situation. The volcanic flows that reached Pompeii around 5 in the evening were not yet lethal. What was actually deadly were the hot gas clouds spewed by the volcano. However, these clouds had hit the city walls a few times and dispersed, gaining the Pompeians a little more time. Meanwhile, the city of Herculaneum, which was closer to Vesuvius, was completely destroyed. It happened so suddenly that even the cheese, bread, and eggs on the table remained as they were. A baby was found carbonized. In Pompeii, people still thought everything would get better. Some were still not aware of how big the disaster was. The rich were even chaining their slaves so they wouldn't escape. Some died while continuing to have fun in bars. We understand this from the ruins. Maybe those people had accepted the inevitable end and wanted to spend the last moments of their lives having fun. Then the expected happened. The deadly gas cloud at 350 degrees surrounded Pompeii at a speed of 100 kilometers. The last 2,000 people remaining in the city died in a second. In just 1 second. They didn't even have the opportunity to feel anything. People eating their food, sleeping, hugging each other, died just like that in their positions at that moment. The person who allowed us to know this disaster in all its details was Gaius Plinius. Plinius watched the eruption from afar, took notes, and years later described the eruption he saw in letters. The source of most of the details we know today is Plinius's writings. For many years it was thought that the eruption was in August. However, new research conducted in 2022 confirmed that the eruption actually took place on October 24th to 25th. Based on the clothes of the dead people, the vegetables and fruits on the greengrocer's stalls, and other findings. The rediscovery of Pompeii happened completely by chance. In 1592, the existence of the city was revealed when a group of workers came across walls while digging for an aqueduct construction. However, systematic excavations were not carried out in the city for years. Now we come to the most interesting detail. The vast majority of the petrified people you see in Pompeii were not actually petrified by nature. In the late 1800s, archaeologists poured plaster into the bodies to preserve the corpse positions remaining in the voids. So we largely preserved those facial expressions, those painful positions we see today. In reality, only 106 of the 1,150 bodies were extracted with plaster casts. It is thought that about 2,000 people died in Pompeii. Most were the elderly, the sick, people who did not want to leave their families, and chained slaves. There were babies among them too. Most of the rich had already fled. The rich escaped again. The poor people died horribly. Today, Pompeii stands as one of the best preserved ancient cities in the world. The main reason for this is that the disaster that occurred suddenly covered the city with ash. So, unfortunately, we owe our ability to understand this event in all its details to that great destruction. Look at the Villa of the Mysteries. There are lots of happy memories of a family on the walls, but the only thing remaining is the shadow of a little girl. The Villa of Diomedes, although once a symbol of wealth, is now remembered with the story of 18 women and children who died, hugging each other in the basement. The pains, fears, hopes experienced 2,000 years ago will seem very familiar even to today's people, because they were humans just like us. People who loved, grieved, dreamed, feared. Many were innocent, many were poor, many were helpless. Maybe people who were making exciting plans for the future but suddenly lost their lives. This is unfortunately the reality of life. Time passes, but the stories carrying the pains remain. I am History Insight. If you liked my video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in new videos. Goodbye.